Hello, I'm Felicity Gerry. I'm Queen's Counsel in England and Wales, and I hold a research active post at Charles Darwin University in Australia. I specialise in the law on female genital mutilation, and in 2012 I was lucky enough to write the groundbreaking article in The Guardian, Female Genital Mutilation, Time for a Prosecution. This followed a successful presentation to the Crown Prosecution Service lawyers and other professionals on how the law in relation to FGM could be enforced. In my view, this helped kickstart the current UK campaign, which, as you know, went global with the Girl Summit. In 2013, I appeared on a panel after the launch of the wonderful Integrate Bristol FGM play My Normal Life, and in the BAFTA-nominated FGM documentary The Cruel Cut on Channel 4, which I hope you've all seen. I was also asked to give guidance on statutory interpretation in relation to an FGM case abroad this year. What followed was the opening of the premiere of the Honour Diaries movie, and I also published a joint article in The Guardian, 10 ways why FGM law has failed and 10 ways to improve FGM law. Followed by a peer-reviewed article in the Griffith Law Journal of Law and Human Dignity, a special edition on women and violence, which was titled Let's Talk About Vaginas, Female Genital Mutilation, the Failure of International Obligations and How to End Abusive Tradition. I'm proud to have been a member of the Working Party for the UK Bar Human Rights Committee, which prepared and submitted the influential report on FGM to the UK Government Home Affairs Committee. Several of the recommendations have been accepted and now proposed by the British government. One of the suggestions we discussed was the collection of data by midwives via health records in a non-discriminatory way, something for you to think about going forward as experts, and that's plenty for you to read. Going forward with this global legal project of mine, I've submitted an abstract on FGM to the Asia Pacific Conference on Gendered Violence and Violations, which is to be held in February, titled Uncut Women Are Empowered, and I'm currently researching under the title Female Genital Mutilation, International Obligations and Enforcing the Law. The question, can campaigns succeed where the government has feared to tread? Is it time for a prosecution so that this is not all academic thinking, but it is also time for crime prevention? You may think that crime prevention is perhaps the most important. Female genital mutilation is a global cultural practice where female children are cut to varying degrees of severity as part of a ceremony into adulthood. The historic and cultural context of this practice is essentially patriarchal. There have been international and domestic legal responses, but millions of women and girls are still cut every year, and there have only been a handful of prosecutions. Today, I want you to think about how such crimes can be detected and prosecuted, but also how FGM can be prevented. In my opinion, midwives are uniquely placed to support mutilated women to avoid their children being mutilated. The issue of FGM is currently hugely topical. The good news is the adoption of the EU Council's conclusions on prevention and combating violence against women, including FGM. On the 6th of August of 2014, the Council of the European Union Justice and Home Affairs issued conclusions on preventing and combating all forms of violence against women and girls, including female genital mutilation. The Council makes recommendations to the Member States and the European Commission on all aspects of a comprehensive policy to end violence against women. That is on prevention, prosecution, protection of women and service provision. It also calls on all EU member states to sign and ratify the Istanbul Convention. That's the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence. The conclusions want to create consistency by calling on EU agencies as well as EU external policies to tackle violence against women as a priority. The conclusions state that violence against women and other forms of gender-based violence constitute, and I quote, a breach of the fundamental right to life, liberty, security, dignity, equality between women and men, non-discrimination, and physical and mental integrity, and refrains women and girls from their full enjoyment of human rights. And in this context, sexual and reproductive health and rights in accordance with the Beijing Platform for Action and the Programme of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, end quotes. Again, do Google it, have a read. On the 1st of August 2014, 3 years after its opening for signature in Istanbul, the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence is entering into force. To date, 14 member states of the Council of Europe have ratified this new human rights treaty, and another 22 states have signed it. The convention is open for accession by states which are not Council of Europe members, so it has real potential. There are, of course, already over 6 decades of international declarations, conventions, and other legal obligations applicable to many countries to combat FGM. In the UK, there's been prohibitive domestic legislation in place for 3 decades and not one successful prosecution. Thanks to the Bar Human Rights Committee, there are now those legal proposals in the UK for civil protection orders in relation to FGM and mandatory reporting, along with further protection for migrant children. FGM is a crime. Investigators and lawyers need training. FGM is child abuse. It disempowers women and girls. But the law cannot work alone. FGM is mostly carried out on young girls from infancy to age 15. FGM includes procedures that intentionally alter or cause injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. FGM comprises all procedures that involve partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. The procedure has no health benefits for girls and women. There have been no prosecutions in the UK, so there's no precedent, but there is CPS legal guidance. And in a recent case on which I gave guidance abroad, the allegations involved ceremonial cutting by removing what was called a few skin cells. The question arose of, what is excision? In a medical dictionary, excision means surgical removal by cutting, as if a tumour or a portion of a structure or organ. According to the World Health Organization fact sheet, female genital mutilation includes those procedures that I've mentioned, intentionally altering or causing injury to female genital organs, with 4 types. Type 4 includes all other harmful procedures to the female genitalia for non-medical purposes, pricking, piercing, incising, scraping, cauterizing the genital area. So if you think about A, a clitoridectomy, or B, excision of any other part of the female genital organs, or infibulation, or any similar procedure, and that 4th one, any other mutilation of the female genital organs, that's the context of a prosecution. What type of FGM is it? In an ordinary English dictionary, mutilation includes maiming, disfigurement, dismembering, damage, vandalisation or desecration. Think about how important it is for lawyers to assess the evidence in relation to damage. If there is insufficient evidence of damage, then the defence may have an argument at trial, and if there is damage but it's minimal, there might even be some mitigation that this was not FGM types 1, 2 or 3. Here there is a real need for expert evidence, and this is where lawyers and health professionals start to work together. The context of law is not just crime, but the elimination of discrimination against women. It's widely accepted that FGM is not related to any colour or religion, but is based on patriarchal systems in diverse communities globally. For many, FGM is a social norm. FGM survives because of the strong roots it has in various cultures and because of multiple false beliefs. Underlying all the explanations given by the countries where the practice still occurs, however, is another reason: the control of a woman's sexuality and her reproductive functions. FGM functions as a self-enforcing social convention or social norm. Families and individuals continue to perform it because they believe that their community expects them to do so. They further expect that if they don't respect the social rule, they will suffer social consequences such as derision, marginalisation and loss of status. Amnesty International have referred to FGM as, and I quote, an attempt to confer inferior status on women by branding. Think about how to empower women and girls to be free from the harmful effects of FGM by ending this global practice together. As long ago as 1977, Elizabeth Moen contended that FGM is a method of control. She called for worldwide recognition that all of these practices are linked via sexual politics. Essentially, combating FGM, she said, may encourage women everywhere to join in a common battle for self-determination. In the decades that have followed, social conventions associated with ideas of cultural relativism continue to be prioritised over criminal justice and the protection of women and girls from abuse. Awareness is vital. FGM as a practice has been imported into countries like the UK where it wasn't routine, but where use of social media is common. Thinking about communication, so the Sydney On Histoire magazine website was shut down when they used on their magazine pictures of female vaginas. Apparently the suggestion was that the images were indecent and it was potentially a publication in contravention of a criminal offence. In a Facebook statement, the magazine editors said, "We're tired of society giving us myriad of things to feel about our own bodies. Either accept vaginas as normal, non-threatening and not disgusting, or explain why you can't." This is the context of campaigning and lawyers and health professionals working together. In the UK, a group of young people from Integrate Bristol presented their play, My Normal Life, about two sisters and their lives growing up in Britain under the spectre of FGM. It was an ambitious and compelling performance by young people from 10 different cultures. The play highlights FGM in the context of violence against women. The young people, male and female, had no qualms talking about vaginas. Layla Hussein and Daughters of Eve have led a campaign for action which now has global media support. Article 24.3 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is mandatory for all signatories, and it's not limited to the making of laws. Legislation must, in my view, be accompanied by education, training and understanding. Crime prevention is still more important than prosecution. I urge you to read the Bar Human Rights Committee report. Midwives are uniquely placed to help in the battle to protect and empower women and girls, not chiefly as investigators, but as experts and support for women. Thank you.